Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at in blog land, TV land, social media land. Welcome to Taboo Talk with Ray and Steve. I'm Ray Amanat, based out in Port Richey, Florida, and joining me is my co-host, Mr. Steve Reed, as always, somewhere in a undisclosed safe house because he's too chicken to just come out and be with the world. Please, Steve, don't be abiding. Don't be abiding. Don't hide in your basement.
Yeah, Ray, whatever. I'm just not an expert in self-defense like you are with, 87 years of teaching and doing self-defense.
I'm that old. I'm that okay. I
Yeah,
see.
well, something like that. So how you doing today, Ray?
I am excited. Not for the. I'm sad for the topic that we're doing today because it hits a little bit too close to home for me.
Yeah, I understand.
But it's important and it is very taboo because I don't think a lot of people want to talk about it. They just if this is happening in your home and the topic we're talking about today is child abuse, and if it's happening in your home and the parents are just sweeping it under the rug and more or less saying nothing to see here, that's a big part of the problem. We're going to really dive into that. But aside from that, I'm doing great. I know you're going to be coming out here to visit Florida in August, so I'm excited to see you and a lot of our networking gang mid August. So that's exciting, and I've got some exciting things I've got going on. Tomorrow we are slated to do a child safety program at a martial arts studio here in Port Richey.
Very
So
cool.
I'm going to have probably about 25, 30 kids that I'm going to be playing with and teaching them how to be heroes for themselves. So
All right, so
that.
Ray, I got a question for you about that. Is it just the kids that you're teaching, or when you do your seminars like this, do you have the parents there as well?
Well, it's an after school program, and
Okay.
I had the owner of the business, I told them to invite the parents.
Yeah,
So I'm sure there'll be some parents there, not all parents. This is going to be an afternoon gig around
sure.
12:30. So there's going to be parents that are going to be at work, and
Yeah,
this
understand.
this school has just kind of an after school or a summer camp program, should I say, for something for the kids to do until the parents get off of work. So,
Outstanding.
but still, Mushy the Martian is going to make a little a
Woohoo!
special appearance, and that'll kind of set us up for next week, which will be at Comic Con in Tampa Bay at the Convention Center.
That's exciting. That is
Yes,
exciting. And Mushy is going to be in Comic Con.
Mushy is going to be at Comic Con as well.
Oh
Absolutely.
my gosh! So, will Mushy's real identity ever be disclosed?
I don't know what you mean. Mushy is mushy. He's a Martian from Mars that just happens to be my best friend.
Oh, right. You're just too funny. So I love it. All right. So, you set us up with a little bit of information about our topic today. I got to tell you, right, over the past few days, I've been doing some research and looking at some numbers and statistics and so forth. And what I pulled up, it's very disturbing. It is very disturbing. I'm just going to throw a couple of numbers out, and we're going to springboard off of these numbers. But every year, more than 4 million referrals are made to child protective agencies. 4 million. Now, that doesn't say all of the scenarios because in some of these referrals, there are multiple children in a home,
Right.
but a referral still goes out to an agency, state, local, federal agency, whatever the case is. Now, some people are going to say, well, Ray, Steve, we got 330 million people in the United States. What's 4 million kids? That's 4 million. It's too many.
Well, and that's those that are reported.
Yeah,
What about
exactly.
those that go
Exactly.
unreported? I
Yeah.
mean, the statistics of child abuse inside the home or even spousal abuse inside the home due to COVID, where
Yep.
everyone was crammed together, they couldn't go
Yep.
anywhere, and they just got on each other's
Yep.
nerves for
Exactly.
whatever reason. I'm sure those numbers shot up even higher.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because the stats that I just gave you are from
Mhm.
2019. That does not reflect what's going on for the past 2 years. So, I mean, it's absolutely insane. Here's another really ugly statistic. In 2019 alone, pre COVID, okay, 2019 alone, state agencies found over 656,000 victims of child maltreatment. Okay. And the way they put it was that is equivalent to over 10 modern football stadiums. That's
Wow.
insane. That is absolutely insane. So let's okay. So I've got more stats that we're going to talk about as we go through this, and some of the side issues related to it. But Ray, right off the bat, what do you? How would you define child abuse?
When where do I start?
Yeah, exactly,
Where do I
exactly.
start? I mean, people think, when they started frowning upon spanking a child, and then a child would say to the parents, I'm going to report you to my teachers because you're spanking me, and that's child abuse. Um, you know, the definition of child abuse has changed over the years.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, from back when it was not frowned upon to spank a child to now it's like, no, you really should just give them a timeout. Or, so it's totally different. But, when you're looking at, is this child constantly have bruising on their body? I
Yep.
saw an interview a long time ago. I think it was either on the Montel Williams show. I believe it was Montel Williams show.
Yeah.
This show actually brought me to tears, because one of the things it said that you have a parent that abuses the child. Let's say they have four kids. I have three brothers, so this is why it hit home to me. They said that the abuser doesn't always physically abuse all four children because it would be too obvious that there's major abuse going on, physical abuse going on in the home.
Yeah.
That they just single out and take everything out on typically one child,
Yeah.
where then they can just say, oh, he or she is clumsy. They fall down riding their bike all the time. So
Exactly.
it justifies why that one child has all the bruises on them or all the injuries.
Yeah.
Why does he have a black eye? Well, he got hit with the baseball. They come up with all the
Yeah.
excuses. And, my mom had always said with my brothers and I, whatever happens in the home stays in the home,
Yeah.
which was kind of a threat because then I couldn't talk to anyone. I couldn't talk to my dad. My parents were divorced. I couldn't talk to teachers at school because my mom had really put the fear of God in us. She had really
Sure.
brainwashed us into thinking things would that would happen would be a lot worse. So, you have physical abuse, which is more visible to people.
Yeah. Exactly.
You have emotional abuse,
Right.
where if you have a parent that's constantly saying you're ugly, you're dumb, you're stupid,
Yeah.
you will always be a bum, that's a form of abuse.
Absolutely.
Hello, I was one of those kids that my mom, constantly, to this day, my brothers were all straight A, honor roll students, gifted children program, and I was the dumb dumb of the family.
Mhm.
And she let me know it on a daily basis. Even to this day, I know I'm talking about my mom, but hey,
Yeah.
She goes around saying stuff about me. I don't really care. Even to this day, if I were to get on a phone conversation, because I ultimately couldn't take it anymore
Yeah.
and moved in with my dad. But there are a lot of kids that out there that don't know who their dad is, so they
Yeah.
don't have that option.
Exactly.
But I was able to move away from the bullying at school and the abuse at my home from my mother.
Right.
But the emotional abuse followed me.
Yeah.
It stayed with me until later on I was able to learn how to deal with it. I still have triggers. She could still get on the phone with me today, and she
Yep.
does. And she says, "You left me. If you would have stayed with me, you would be successful like your brothers." And go right back to comparing me to my brother, the lawyer, my brother, the architect, or my brother, the doctor.
Yeah.
And she said, "You went and you became a fighter. You got into boxing, kickboxing, martial arts, and you've had your body beat up and broken bones and all that stuff. I wouldn't change what I've done with my life in the world. I would never go back.
Yeah.
If I
I
were
hear
to
you.
do it all over, I'd do it all over again."
Yep. Well, and Ray, with that said, I can see where the impact that you're having with your martial arts training and all of the seminars and classes and schools that you work with, all of the things that how you're impacting people with your books, with the other conferences, with your anti-bullying message that you preach. You're probably having a bigger impact on society than all three of your siblings put together.
That's my goal.
Yeah,
I hope so. I mean,
understand.
that's I want to be not just a national speaker, but eventually an international speaker to get out and help people
Yeah,
that don't
absolutely.
have any other choice or don't have any other options. So, what are your what's your opinion on other different forms of abuse that's out there?
Well, Ray, over the years with my coaching practice, I've worked with all different kinds of people, and the I'm going to give you two different real quick illustrations. No detail, understand that. But one of my clients, when he was 10 years old, his grandfather passed away. His grandmother moved in with the family, and he used to love hanging out with his grandparents. I mean, she would let him stay up until all hours of the night. There was no such thing as a dietary restriction. He could eat anything he wanted to eat. As soon as she moved into the house with them, it was a Jekyll and Hyde scenario. And one day, he told me the story. One day, he was playing with some friends when he was, it was after school one day, and he just lost track of time, and he heard a clock bell that was ringing, basically saying it's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, whatever the time was. He ran home as fast as he could, but he was 20 or 30 minutes late in getting home. His grandmother was standing there waiting for him and started to beat him, not spank him, not punish him, but beat him. And then that started the verbal abuse. You're worthless. You'll never amount to anything. Why can't you be more respectful, etc.? All of that verbal abuse. He went to his parents to complain. And of course, she denied everything. Fast forward, unfortunately, he had a situation. He had gotten married. Well, he left home. He turned 18 years old. He left home, joined the Marines against his parents' wishes, and said, I don't care. I'm never coming back. He joined the Marines. He got away from that negative stuff. Now, understand his CO, he probably abused him in ways more than his grandmother ever did, but it was for a purpose, okay? And as a result, he became a stellar, officer in the community or in that world. Well, he came home, he met a girl, they got married, then life continues to change. Her parents started having some issues. They moved in with her parents because her father was dealing with some health issues. Her father eventually passed away, but then her mother resumed the negative stuff. you're worthless, you'll never amount to anything, you're a deadbeat, et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden, he took that mindset with him. And thankfully, when I got to him, I mean, he was Ray. The first time I saw him, he could not look me in the eyes, could not look me in the eyes. That's how beaten down he was, and he was, basically he was emasculated. And when we finished, his mantra that he was screaming at the top of his lungs is, "I am a mighty warrior." It changed his mindset. I had
So,
another.
I mean, I don't mean to cut you off.
No.
There's so much to the stories. You have parents that chain their kids to the toilet because they want to go out and party.
Oh yeah.
You have parents that don't feed their kids, they lock them
Yes.
up in their rooms.
Yes.
You have incest. You have
Exactly.
boyfriends of mothers or brothers or sisters or whatever else that sexually abuse
Yep.
the child. So when we're talking abuse, mental, physical, sexual, psychological,
Yep.
you have children that have learning disabilities, physical disabilities, that are hearing impaired, that are
Absolutely.
visually impaired, that are traumatized and totally physically, verbally, and sexually abused, that go under the radar. That's how sick and disgusting this topic is. That no people, I doubt if we get anybody on our Facebook page to jump on and make a comment or anything to add to the conversation
Yeah.
because this topic is so taboo.
Well, Ray, you shared some stories about your mother. I had my own issues growing up. I'm the youngest of four boys, and I had older family members that physically abused me as well. And I didn't dare say anything to anybody. My dad was a minister, and imagine what would happen, the rumblings in the community, if the community knew that my dad, the minister, that his son was being physically abused by older family members. And that's all I'm going to say from there for slander reasons. We'll just leave it at
Sure.
that. But the sad thing, Ray, is it doesn't just stop with child abuse, because what happens is those children grow up. Well, let me rephrase. Those children get older. Okay. Sometimes they don't grow up. Sometimes those children that were the abusers become narcissists and continue the abuse into their adult years. And it happens more than we realize. I have dealt with so many people over the years that you could tell that they were a narcissist, and they think the world revolves around them, and they're going to do everything they possibly can to make sure everybody knows how great they are. But in reality, they're lower than slug slime. I mean, and everybody knows it, but they are too hung up on themselves, because of their whatever, their inferiority issues. But they continue to take it out on other people and abuse other people as they get older and older in life. Here's another sad statistic I just got from this from the CDC website. It says links for adverse childhood experiences, including the household dysfunctions, along with abuse and neglect, with a range of long term health issues or impacts. Individuals who reported 6 or more adverse childhood experiences had an average life expectancy 2 decades shorter than the average life expectancy.
So if the average is for me to live 70 years, then most people that are traumatized or abused would probably
Yeah.
only live to about what, 50?
Yeah, 50, 55, 60. And they develop all different types of diseases and disorders. COPD is one of the big ones that has been revealed. Liver disease, other health related things. chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, heart disease is another one. And so as a result, okay, I'm going to digress for just a brief moment. There is an author and speaker, Caroline Leaf. She does a lot of work, psychological work with a lot of people, and she did some experiments where she had two plants that were on her desk, and every day she yelled and screamed at one of the plants. Over a period of time, that plant just shriveled up. Okay, the other plant, she spoke nicely, kindly, watered it, fed it, etc., all of those kind, and it is flourishing. Well, that's a plant, or those are two different plants. Imagine what happens if we are continuously told that we are stupid, we're ugly, we're fat, we'll never amount to anything, we're no good, we're a thief, you're going to end up in prison just like your Uncle Jesse, etc. All of that garbage. That is another one of those forms of child abuse. And we see it over and over again, in addition to the physical abuse, in addition to the sexual abuse, and all of those other things. The neglect that is going on is.
Can I add to the list?
No, you can't. Yeah, please do.
Parents that, I've worked with so many kids over the years, and parents that smoke cigars or cigarettes,
Oh,
where
absolutely.
their child's clothing is, they just smell like an ashtray.
Yeah,
What kind of health problems is that child going to have?
exactly.
Parents that are making methamphetamines inside their house or doing any other type of hardcore drug or gateway drug that leads to hardcore drugs.
Yeah,
Parents that abuse alcohol, they're alcoholics, they abuse the alcohol, which ends up they abuse their family, their child. Um, so when you're dealing with drug addiction, to the point where you're making it outside the house in front of your kids, when you're leaving syringes around,
oh yeah, insane.
um, uh, when you're an addict and you have a baby and the baby's drinking the breast milk and is an addict because of you, it just keeps going on and on and
Yes,
on.
yes.
We have the question, where does this start, or what do you think is the cause of child abuse? I couldn't tell you.
Well, right, I've got an answer, or one answer of many, but before we go to that answer, we need to take a real brief break, and let's talk a little bit about Heroes in Action. So tell us a little bit of some of the things that Heroes in Action does to help minimize or prevent some of the issues with child abuse.
So I created Heroes in Action mainly because as a child, I was a target for bullying. I never had a public speaker come to our school to talk about, here's some strategies on how to deal with bullying. Here's some strategies on what to say, what to do, so that you're not labeled a tattletale or a snitch or anything like that. I wrote the book Bully, Victim, or Hero as it's pretty much about my story on how I went from being the victim to becoming the bully to now I travel and try to teach people how to be heroes for themselves. I wrote the book series, The Adventures of Mushy the Martian, as a tool for parents and teachers to use to introduce sensitive topics like bullying, like dealing with strangers, and like following directions, so that kids learn how to be better critical thinkers or problem solvers. I wanted Heroes in Action to be a program where I can go out into the public and educate them via lectures or hands on seminars on teaching people what to do if you're put in a situation where you're face to face with somebody that's unreasonable, irrational, and maybe armed or unarmed with intent to hurt you. Our goal is mainly focusing on violence prevention, so that people can overcome fears. Um, we want people to have the tools to be able to grow and be successful in life. So we have children's programs, we have programs for domestic violence in the home, We have programs for workplace violence, dealing with active shooters. All those situations can stem from somebody that's been abused at home or bullied at school, and they grow and turn into this monster because they've never been given the strategies. With Mushy the Martian, we go to public places and I introduce Mushy after I do a book reading. And we're trying to get Mushy to be the next Mickey Mouse, if you will. Hopefully, someday Pixar or somebody will pick us up and we'll be able to spread the message of positive thinking, problem solving, and being a hero through that through Mushy. You can get a hold of us. There's our contact information that you guys can pretty much see as far as phone number, email. Visit our Heroes in Action. Our goal is to get a whole bunch of donors. If we can get up to 4,000 donors that donate just $5 a month, the cost of an expensive cup of coffee at Starbucks, that will enable us to travel nationally and provide all of our training and materials, books, t-shirts, superhero capes, and everything for kids for free. We don't want to charge a dime for what we have to offer, but we need everyone's help to donate $5 or more. Just go to our website and click the donate now button or tab and help us help our country and our communities.
Ray, you've got a great heart for kids and helping, just helping people get better all the way around. And I really appreciate what you are doing for your community, but also for communities around the country. So thank you very much. So, yeah, let's go back and talk about some of the root causes of child abuse or abuse in general. Is a phrase that I heard many years ago, and I continue to use it today. And it goes like this: hurt people hurt people. And what happens oftentimes is if you have been hurt growing up, that's your mindset. That's what you know because that's all you saw. So one of the things that I do when I'm working with young couples that are that are engaged, they're getting ready to get married, we go through some of the past things that they have dealt with. Did they come from an intact home? Did they come from a broken home? Did one of the parents pass away? Were they living with the parents? Were they living with grandparents? All of those kinds of things. Those are all dynamics when it comes to their situation and where they're going to be in their upcoming relationship or marriage. And one of the things that we talk about is if you came from a broken home, you have a jaded point of view or an unusual or dysfunctional point of view. If you come from a home that was intact, my mom and dad were absolutely fabulous. I have nothing but high praise for them. So how anyway? So anyway, I'm just going to keep going.
You're fine.
but but when you if you see things that are not normal over and over and over again, that's the way you're going to look at things. Now, I got to quote a real quick story, probably one of my favorite stories from Zig Ziglar. And he said that there was a mother and daughter that are preparing a big holiday meal, and the daughter's in her early 20s, and daughter says, "Mom, why do you always cut the ham or cut the ends off the ham before you bake it?" And her mother says, "Well, I do it because my mother always cut the ends off the ham before she baked it." "Well, why does grandma always cut the ends off the ham?" "I don't know. Why don't we call her?" So they get grandma on the phone. "Grandma, why do you always cut the ends off the ham before you bake it?" "Well, because I don't have a pot big enough to fit the ham in." So you think about something as silly as that, but you realize that there may be some stupid reasons why we are doing things. If somebody grew up in a household where there was smoking a lot, guess what? There's probably going to be smoking. If somebody grew up in a household where there was a lot of alcohol, guess what? The odds are one or two things. Either there's going to be more alcohol or One person is going to say, I've had enough of that. I'm going in the exact opposite direction.
Right.
I've heard countless stories like that. So those are some of the things. Hurt people hurt people. Somewhere along the line, they have been abused by a family member, by a sibling, an older family member, an aunt, an uncle, a cousin, a grandparent, whatever the case. It almost always leads back to some type of history from that older person. What do you think?
I think you're spot on with that, and we actually got a comment from a viewer that asked, "What should someone do if they suspect the child is being abused?" Which kind of goes hand in hand. Or what are some of the signs to look for?
Yeah.
Um, for me, of course, physical bruising around the child's arms or body. Is the child an introvert? Do they avoid eye contact? Are they always afraid to talk to you? What are some other signs that we could bring up that they can look for? And then, of course, how do you want to, you report it to the Division of Family and Children's Services, or anytime a school teacher sees any bruising or anything on a child, they are mandated. They have to
Yeah.
report abuse to the Division of Family of and Children's Services. So, but if you're a neighbor or if you're somebody that just sees abuse at a mall, at a shopping center, take a picture of the car, take a picture of the license plate, take a picture or a video of the person abusing the child, and submit that to the Division of Family Services and let them do it. If you want to add to that, you can.
Well, there are child protective service organizations literally across the country. That's probably one of the biggest operations that's around. They're always underfunded and understaffed because there's so many occurrences. But I heard a story several years back, probably 20, 25 years ago, about a young boy who went from he was in, I want to say, in third grade, and he was a great student, and every day he did it, he showed up for class, he did his homework, etc. Just a really good, well behaved student. But somewhere between the third and fourth grade, his mother had gotten sick and she passed away. And all of a sudden, I'm just going to call him Billy. Billy became somewhat of a recluse. He stopped doing his homework. He became just very reserved and withdrawn. And he wasn't doing his homework. He wasn't passing his classes or his tests. And the teachers were starting to get concerned about him, but nobody really identified what was going on. They just said he's got major emotional issues and he's unruly, he can't be taught, etc., etc. Well, a few years later, one of the other teachers went back and looked at his public records, his history, and they discovered that between either second and third grade or third and fourth grade, his mother had passed away. And that's when everything started to take place. And as the story goes, he came for Christmas this one year, fourth or fifth grade, whatever it was, and he gave the teacher a Christmas present that was just, it was an old broken bottle of perfume, or partially full bottle of perfume, and a broken bracelet. And that's what he gave to the teacher. And the teacher opened it up, and thankfully she knew some of his history. And she says, "Oh my gosh, this is so special." She took the perfume out, sprayed the perfume on, wore the bracelet. And then she told this little Billy how thankful she was. And he said, "Well, that's the perfume that my mom used to wear." As a result, she took him under his wing. Fast forward, the story goes that he graduated with honors from high school because of her mentoring. He graduated from college. He invited her to come to his graduation. He got married. He graduated from med school, etc. And she was there through the entire process because This one teacher spotted the signs, saw what was going on, saw the radical change from one year to the next, and started addressing the issue in the ways that she could help. And as a result, he turned out to be a great doctor. So, but it's those teachers, it's the Sunday school, it's the church, it's the neighbors, it's other family members. If the kids who used to be out there playing all the time and now they're sequestered in their homes all the time, you never see them out on the street, you never see them riding their bikes or doing other fun things that teenagers or children do. We got to watch and see what those things are. So keep your eyes and ears open for those things, and then talk to the appropriate authorities. Maybe it's a pastor or a church that you need to visit with. Maybe it's a counselor. Maybe it's a school counselor that you need to talk to. Maybe it is escalated up to child protective services, those sorts of things. Maybe it's law enforcement. Depends on the severity of the situation. But if you see something, I mean, the whole phrase from several years ago, see something, say something. Don't just keep it to yourself. Say something to somebody in a position of authority.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's take a break. And I know you've got a lot of things that you want to share with LifeWave. So, can you talk to everyone a little bit about this?
Absolutely, Ray. Well, let me share a couple of things with LifeWave. First of all, I was introduced to the product about 7 or 8 months ago, and what it is, I've got a little image here, a little picture. Actually, I'm gonna stop the screen for just a second. Oh, sorry, Ray, I didn't mean to pull you up. Anyway, here's the LifeWave patch. It's a little wearable patch that you just peel the little backing off. You stick it on your body. Number of different places where you can wear it. No drugs, no pills, no injections, nothing of that sort. And it just tells your body to start energizing or reactivating your own personal stem cells. Now, that's what it does. Let me tell you what it did, what the benefits were for me. I was dealing with chronic lower back pain from bulging and herniated discs. The pain went away almost overnight. It was absolutely amazing what happened with the pain reduction. In addition to that, I sleep like a baby. It is absolutely incredible how much better I sleep. Rapid wound repair and healing reduces inflammation. Inflammation is the root cause of a lot of our ailments that we have today. So it's going to help by reducing inflammation all throughout your body, faster recovery from exercise and workouts and those kinds of things, better focus, more vitality. I'm going to show you a couple of real quick pictures. Here's a young man. He was in a skiing accident. And day one, you can see how messed up his face was. In day five, because he had been wearing one of these patches, he had rapid healing. Here's a man who had his hand almost severed as a result of a car accident in just a few days, no, 50, 60 days. You can't see the stuff. Here's a woman who had bunion surgery, and you can see in just a month she had the rapid healing. A young fellow who had his fingers severed in an accident, and they went to the emergency room, insisted that the doctors sew the fingertip back on, and in 2 months he had full use of that fingertip. You can see the progression of what happened. Here's one of the other big ones, and that is in enhancing the collagen levels in your face. It tightens up your face, and as a result, you start to look younger. I'm even being told that it actually helps us with actually changing our hair. So it's turning the aging process backwards. And I'm hearing stories about people growing new hair and their hair color going back to the original hair color. So that is the product. It's called the X39 patch from LifeWave. There are a number of other patches that you can get that are absolutely amazing to do a number of different things. But I highly recommend, if you need information, there's my website. you're welcome to reach out to me directly, and we'll see if we can't do one of those virtual cups of coffee and have a conversation. So, Ray, back to you.
All right. So we were talking about what signs to look for, who to talk to, who to reach out to. A lot of kids don't have those options because they're being monitored by the parents. So, yes, it is up to the neighbors and the school teachers and the school counselors and the PE teacher that sees any signs of abuse to report it so that that child can get help. A lot of kids don't have the advocates that they need to get the help that they need. Um, how can child abuse be resolved?
Ray, see something, say something. You've got to report it. I've got a situation right now with a client whose grandson is being maltreated. I'll put it that way. Um, Mother has some psychological issues, but it's not severe enough to be able to report to CPS. So there are some red flags that we're looking at to see how we can help and direct. Um, so those kinds of things. I'm going to guess when you're teaching students, if you have a regular group of martial arts students that come into your studio, you probably see some behavioral changes or have seen some of those behavioral changes over the years. And maybe you, as their instructor, you become a mentor to some of these young children. Are there ways that you can help in the things that you're doing with martial arts where you can help and be a friend to them?
Well, that's why I'm offering all of my services for free because there are kids that are out there that can't afford going to a martial arts school, or
Mhm.
and it doesn't have to be martial arts. Any sport or any dance studio or music studio, they have the ability to help a child build their self esteem, build their self worth, and give that child a different mentor to look up to. For me, when I left my mom, I said, I will never be like her. I will never act like
Yeah.
her. And I was always seeking out and searching people to identify to. So that's the person that I want to be like. That's who I want to become. You know, a lot of kids that their parents are incarcerated. If the parent is the hero, and but they're in prison and their child says, I want to be just like dad, you know, what is that going to do to the direction of the, that child's life is going to go through? So it is seeking out mentors through Boy Scouts, through Girl Scouts,
Yeah.
through Big Brother, Big Sisters, um, through other community organizations that have programs that can help that child. If there's a single mom that doesn't have uh, the ability or the finances to be able to put their kids into soccer or music or any other type of activity, they can look into the YMCA. They can look into other
Yes.
programs that can give them a little bit of a break or a little bit of relief. And maybe the parent can get some counseling or coaching on how to be a better parent.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many parents that are out there that'll say, um, how dare you tell me how to raise my child? You know, I'm raising my child the same way my parents raised me.
Exactly.
And look at how I turned out. And, you know, I don't mean to be insensitive, but yeah, I am looking at the way you turned out and look at what you're doing to your child. But,
Oh, yeah, but Ray, here's one of the problems. If somebody spots an issue with the way a parent is raising their child, and they say something, then the wrath of that from that parent comes on the person that says something.
right.
Yeah, Ray, personal story. So back in the 80s, I was married previously. We tried for years to have children, could not have kids. And I remember going into one of the marts, a Walmart or a Kmart or something like that, one of the big stores, and I remember seeing this woman that was, I don't want to judge, but she was pretty unkept. I'll just leave it at that. And she had a 5 or 6 year old little boy, and there was a big basket of balls that was there close to one of the checkout lines, and this little boy kept playing with one of the balls. And all of a sudden, this mom just reached over, grabbed him by the arm, and yanked him over and said, "I told you over and over to stop playing with that. We don't have the money." And she's just screaming at him. And my heart broke for that little boy. And I wanted so badly to slap that woman so hard and say, "You don't deserve to be his parent." And Ray, I was incensed when I saw that. And I started, frankly, I started crying out to God, "God, why does she have this young boy and I don't?"
Right.
And it just hurt. I mean, it went right to the bone to me. And so as a result, I did other things, and I started working with my youth group shortly thereafter. And I started helping these kids, preteens and teenagers, and trying to be a mentor and a guide and so forth to them. Today in my coaching practice, unfortunately, I clean up a lot of messes from those kinds of scenarios. So whether it's the physical or emotional abuse, whatever, I clean up a lot of messes. And a lot of those people are damaged for a long time. And that projects itself into additional relationships. Right. I want to share, no, I don't want to share, but I'm going to anyway. I'm going to share another ugly statistic. One study shows 80% of 21-year-olds who reported childhood abuse met the criteria for at least one psychological order. Now, I'm going to read off the list of psychological order disorders. Risk for intimate partner violence. In other words, they grow up, they start beating their spouse. Number two, alcoholism or other alcohol abuse issues, illicit drug abuse, smoking and drinking at an early age, depression, and here's the biggest one, suicide attempts. They're screaming for help and they don't know where to go. So they try to take their lives. And oftentimes they're not trying to be successful. They're just screaming for help, saying, "I don't know what to do." So that's part of it on the psychological side. But then if we go fast forward and we look at some of the sexual impacts, multiple sex partners, sexually transmitted disease, unintended pregnancies, early initiated use or sexual activity, and then adolescent pregnancies, and unfortunately fetal deaths. So all of these things are stems from the abuse that the children are having when they're 3, 4, 5, 10 years old, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Yes. And when we talk about the long term ramifications of the abuse, bruises and cuts or scrapes go away.
Yeah.
But the emotional side of things, those will stay with the child literally forever.
Yeah.
It'll affect the relationships that they have in their future. Are they going to have, we talk about conditional and unconditional love, where, you have a parent that says, if you don't do what I say, then I won't love you anymore.
Yeah.
Do what I say, and then I'll love you. Or, it's my mom would be like, do what I say. If you don't do what I say, then I'm going to take you out of my will.
Yeah.
I got to a point where I don't give a crap about your will. You can take it and use it as toilet paper.
Mhm.
Um, so the long term ramifications where a child is in a relationship based on conditional love.
Yes. Yes.
Um, unconditional love, regardless of whatever the child does. If the child gets in trouble, the child misspeaks or does something bad, your parent will always love you. But the conditional love, that's what you and I'm kind of in past relationships guilty of it because of how I was raised,
Yeah,
where you make people feel like they have to walk on eggshells. They have to be careful what they say, be careful
exactly.
how they react, and that affects a child's relationships down the road,
Yeah,
where it's not going to be very healthy. If we can, through churches or through other organizations, learn what unconditional love, unconditional friendship is,
absolutely.
that can help turn things around in a more positive way.
Yeah. Ray, we're starting to wind down on time. I know with our conversations, and I think it's interesting how we started connecting a couple of years ago and listening to each other's stories. I know you have been a great resource for helping young people get past some of the things because you help people have a good, proper, healthy mindset. And that's one of the primary things that I do as well. You work with the younger people, and I know you work with women in self-defense issues, but I know you really have a passion for working with those 10, 11, 12-year-old young children. And you have ways of being able to leave a good, solid, healthy impression with those kids. So you can become their hero in many cases. Unfortunately, when those kids get into their 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, sometimes they didn't have a Ray Amanat that was there to mentor them when they were younger. And as a result, they're damaged.
Right.
And the divorce rate is sky high today. The child abuse rate, the physical abuse rate is so high. And that's where people like myself come in, that we can help people deal with some of those things. So if you're dealing with the aftermath of abuse issues, reach out for help. Find somebody that is professional that can help you deal with those things. If we need to have a conversation, I'm happy to set up some time to help people deal with some of the things from their past. A lot of times, Ray, I know you deal with this. There are times that people have that damage that is so intense that it takes you a while to get their mindset turned into a positive mindset.
Right.
And the same thing is true when they get into their adult years. So we got to change the way people think about themselves and how they look towards their future. There is hope for the future, but you got to reach out and you've got to ask for help. So that's one of the
And
big
if
things.
you want to message Steve or myself, and we can give you those resources. If
Absolutely.
we can't help you, we can give you the resources that are available to you based on your area, and we'll give you some guidelines to go by to get the right kind of help that you need. So feel free to reach out to either one of us through Messenger.
Yeah. Ray, as we wrap up today, the number one thing that I want to share is if you see something that's going on, please say something. Talk to the right people, talk to the appropriate agencies, authorities, etc. Say something. If you suspect there are some things that are going on, say something. Maybe you approach the parent first or whoever you think is the perpetrator. Maybe you approach them first. Maybe they've got some stuff that's going on. Maybe it's neglect because a spouse is going through an issue, a health issue. Maybe there's some other things that are going on. Maybe what that parent needs is a friend. Maybe that parent needs a warm meal that is brought over to them. Maybe they need some help with the child rearing. Maybe they need some help just dealing with life, and you can be there to help them. So reach out. Don't keep it a secret. Whatever you do, do not keep it a secret. Reach out to Ray, reach out to myself. We're happy to help. And if we don't have the answers, we've got a lot of resources. Ray,
Amen to that.
Ray, closing thoughts.
No, I think you said it as eloquent as you could have said it and as passionate as you could have made it. Um, we live in a crazy world,
Yeah, we do.
and it's going to take education and training to deal with all the craziness. So don't be afraid to get out there and learn something from the professionals that deal with this on a daily basis.
Yeah. Right. I think that's pretty much a wrap for this week's program.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching to all our viewers. Please like, share, comment. If you go to our YouTube page, please subscribe to our YouTube page and do the same. And tune in next week as we'll have another surprise topic to throw at you. Actually, I'm going to run something by you after the show.
Sounds good, Ray. All right, Ray, as always, it's a pleasure. And reach out. Let's see how we can help you get a good positive mindset as you go forward in life. Ray, signing off. Have
All
a
right.
great
Be
day.
good.
Thanks.